Whispers of Sallie, unraveling the true story of America's most haunted house. Nestled within the serene town of Atchison, Kansas, the Sallie House stands as a dark relic of haunted past. Having stood for over 150 years, the reported hauntings linked to a tragic event that unfolded within its walls, along with unparalleled coverage of paranormal activity, have earned the house its reputation as the most haunted house in America. Today, on Haunting Histories, we delve into the true story behind what actually happened at the Sallie House and attempt to answer the question of who or what is the dark force inhabiting the house to this day. Built. In the late 1800s, the two-story Victorian dwelling became the residence of a local physician named Charles Finney. The Finney family moved into the home with dreams of building a life of tranquility. Well regarded in the community, life seemed idyllic within the walls of their Victorian abode, which doubled as the physician's clinic. The front of the house served as office space and examination rooms, while the doctor and his family lived upstairs. One fateful day, a frantic mother arrived carrying her 6-year-old daughter, Sallie. The child had collapsed from severe abdominal pain. The doctor diagnosed appendicitis and knew there was no time to delay surgery. Believing the appendix would soon burst, the doctor began cutting Sallie before the anesthesia took full effect. Sallie's screams suddenly stopped, and she grew pale and limp. She died right there on the operating table, her last memories of a man whom she believed was torturing her. In the years that followed, a darkness hovered over the Sallie House. Multiple ominous deaths occurred in the house as the house changed hands, including a Finney relative in 1872 and a husband and his wife by 1939. Yet, the residue of Sallie's untimely departure seemed to linger the longest. After the tragedies, the house remained silent, absorbing the imprints of grief and the echoes of a life interrupted. While many of the house's previous residents had reported paranormal activity, it wasn't until the 1990s that a new chapter in the Sallie House's history would unfold. As a young couple named Deborah and Tony Pickman moved in, unknowingly stepping into a realm where the past and present converged in unsettling ways. Almost immediately after settling in, the Pickmans began experiencing strange phenomena. The most unsettling was the laughter of a child echoing through the empty halls, while their newborn son would be sleeping in his crib. No one else was present, yet the laughter persisted, haunting the couple's every waking moment. The hauntings escalated when their newborn baby started to respond to the outside voices, waking up every hour in the night as if someone were playing with him. Often, the light in the infant's room would turn on suddenly despite Deborah turning it off every night. Initial frustration turned to fear for the couple as the days passed, when Deborah and Tony noticed toys moving on their own and footsteps echoing in empty rooms. The once joyful atmosphere turned oppressive, with an unspoken tension that hung in the air. The disturbances escalated when the Harpers reported seeing apparitions in Victorian-era clothing, flickering in and out of existence. Deborah often caught glimpses of a little girl with blonde curls, dressed in a white, old-fashioned gown, the source of the mysterious laughter. The Pickmans' fears were furthered in the summer of 1993, when they returned to their home to discover the stuffed animals in their infant's room. Laid out back to back in a circle on the floor, in an almost eerie seance position. They returned the animals to their places and turned the light off, only to coil in terror when they returned to the room to find the light on and a large stuffed bear on its back in the middle of the floor. Tony Pickman reported scratching behind his bed, fires starting on their own, and even a lamp being thrown across the room by an unknown force. But the culmination of the paranormal activity occurred when the little girl Tony had seen off and on in the house grabbed him by the wrists, leaving dark burns and scratches on his arms. At this point, the Pickmans knew they weren't dealing with a little girl. Desperate for answers and in fear for their safety, they agreed to a seance conducted by renowned paranormal investigators. The atmosphere inside the Sallie House became charged with an otherworldly energy as mediums attempted to communicate with the spirits that lingered. During the seance, a voice identified itself as Sallie and claimed to be trapped between worlds. The entity expressed anger and confusion, hinting at unfinished business that bound her to the house. The Pickmans, now sure they were no longer welcome in the home, decided to vacate the house. In the years that followed, other residents came and went with little discussion of paranormal activity. That is, however, until the landlord showing a prospective tenant the property discovered something utterly horrifying in the basement. In the middle of what was once a storage area, he discovered a large pentagram on the floor, along with other occult paraphernalia, alluding to devil worship in the house's basement. With no obvious explanation as to who inscribed the floor with the dark display, and no timeline for its existence, the nature of the haunting grows deeper, and the question lingers. What is true identity of the entity inhabiting the Sallie House? Is it the ghost of a life taken too early, or a demon taking advantage of folklore for a darker purpose? What do you think? What is your take on the entity haunting America's most haunted house? Is the Sallie House the result of residual energy imprinted on the environment from the traumatic events surrounding Sallie's surgery? The intense emotions, fear, and pain experienced during her procedure may an imprint on the house, causing her apparition to replay those moments in the house's walls. Is the Sallie House a magnet for malevolent entities drawn to the lingering energy of tragic events? The untimely death of Sallie and subsequent deaths in the house, creating a vortex of negative energy, attracting entities with malicious intent to inhabit its walls? Or is this story just playing on the imaginations of the human mind, with guests and tourists eager to believe that evidence exists to prove the supernatural? The enduring fascination with this unassuming residence leave us with more questions than answers. Whatever it is, the Sallie House, with its spectral residents and chilling tales, continues to this day to stand as a symbol of the unknown, inviting those curious enough to step into its haunted embrace.